Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another scene from Reno by Night. Our scene is set in the car that is driving along the streets of Reno, Nevada. It is driven by Father Marcus, the prince's ghoul, and sitting in the passenger seat is the prince himself, sort of dreamily looking out the window right now, watching the neon lights go by again. He has had a very enjoyable evening tonight, has gotten quite a lot done, and has a lot on his mind. He is not trying to spoil his mood by thinking about the bad, because there is some bad news tonight. Mostly, he's thinking about the good and the games of intrigue that are going to be played over the next several months, maybe even years, if he is lucky. This is the moments that he lives for. A great game. It is a quirk of his that he has never grown out of ever since his youth. Perhaps someday he will, but he is not that old yet, I suppose. He thinks on the party of the wonderful Vitae tasting that was held at the new establishment that Stanhope and Calliope have purchased. He thinks of the plans to elevate Stanhope to a new position within the city, one that he'll be able to carefully monitor, but one that will hopefully put that Ventrue's capitalistic nature to good use. If nothing else, it will give potentially some rivalry to Falcone, and that is always a good thing, especially in his instance, but he's not going to dwell too much on that right now. The other, Miss Tavoularis, she works best under the radar, as it were. To make her High Cleric would somewhat defeat the purpose of her being High Cleric, but he was certain that she was going to be his High Cleric. But how to go about that? As he thinks on that, he smiles. He remembers some of the traditions of the church, and a wonderful idea comes to him. He'll need to write her a letter when he returns. He'll need to write a few letters when he returns. And it's at that moment he cannot put the thought out of his head any longer. It has been sort of nibbling away in the back of his mind right now. Like a rat trapped in a skull, trying to desperately to escape. Quite a morbid thought, but it has been a very morbid week for the kindred of Reno. He does not like how much time Cameron Forsyth has been spending with the Seneschal. He has not known Mr. Forsyth for long, but from what he had known about him, he was a member of Reno's finest before the coteries were disbanded, which meant he was under Miss Blackmoon, and Miss Blackmoon and the Seneschal were not on close terms. Far from it. None of the prefects were on close terms with one another. The former prince made sure of that. Miss Blackmoon was on great terms with the former prince, though. Out of all of the prefects, she was the only one that he truly depended upon, even to some extent as much as Prince From could trust anyone. He may have trusted her. That is something that Alvarez always admired about Alex Blackmoon, but it drove him crazy during his prefect years, always wanting the position she had, but never being able to, because the prince had little stock in the theocracy. He had never had high stock in the theocracy, and now the theocracy rules all of Reno. And now Miss Blackmoon works for him. But can he trust that same stock that the former prince put in her, after years of tyranny, mutual respect? He and Blackmoon had nothing but a history of conflict, one that the prefect of Reno's finest hardly put any stock in, as far as he could tell. Of course, there were bitter words here and there, but Well, that is just the kindred life, isn't it? What if he was wrong? What if. Nah, that's just paranoia, he thinks to himself. But paranoia is a survival instinct for most kindred. By the very nature of the Camarilla, one is always struggling to the top, for the moment you stop is the moment you shall climb no further. The extent of your power within the structure. And that was not in Ricardo Alvarez's nature. After a few minutes, the car pulls into the parking lot of the Church of St. Augustine in St. Augustine Square. The door is opened and he steps out into the night and walks slowly up the steps. Ah, this has really brought down his mood. The seneschal. He was so sure he knew where Gabriel stood. The peacemaker, the deal breaker, the kingmaker. So many titles. Yet he never wanted anything for himself, but for the ensured prosperity of his family. For Mr. Falcone was undoubtedly a family man. For his mortal flock, as it were, and for his clan. It was an endearing quality of his, and it ensured that he would never go for the throne, for it would not benefit him, it would only cause more trouble, since he already had so much. The prince was relying that that would be enough, that desire to make sure his family remained in power. But what if the prince was wrong? So much doubt this night. So much damper on what had been a festive mood. Could the prince have made a terrible mistake? Perhaps he is just looking too much into that. But nonetheless, you will need to take cautions. He needs to speak with Gabriel again. He needs to, if for nothing else, to get the books. Graves' research. Oh, the excitement builds within the prince. The ability to undo death itself. If it could be possible for the kine, could it be possible for the kindred? Could what was undone be made once again? Could he be reunited with those he had lost? The thought excited him to no bounds. Oh, the power the clans had lost, and the potential their extinction had brought. He stands in the hallway. The choices before him, head above or head below. He turns to his ghoul. He says, "There is some more work that needs to be done tonight. I need you to go to the old storage room. You know the one. Fetch the telescope." "Of course, sir," says the ghoul. The telescope has not been brought in a long time, but whenever Father Alvarez decided to indulge in matters of astrology, it usually was of a more supernatural nature. And the ghoul understood what that would entail, so with a bow, he heads back into the church and then out into the night to fetch what is needed, as the prince takes the stairs down into the church below. After climbing down the stairs into the crypt-like hallways, after revealing the false brick, activating the trapdoor, resealing everything as it was before, and entering, he finds himself in the night church, the great eye of the abyss staring down at him, always down, upon the shadowed reflection of the church above. He looks at all of the statues that line the walls in the dim lamp glow, towering over the pews. Looking down, the paragons of the Camarilla, all seven save one, and it is to that one that he approaches, the defaced statue, the clan that is no more. There's a bitterness in this as he reaches behind the statue to activate the switch, the sound of mechanisms, the wall opening. The night church was unique like that. Each of the statues had a lever behind them, but only one could be opened at a time, and to open one was to close another door, and all led to the same place, the labyrinth beyond. Pillars upon pillars of identical turns. One could get lost forever, hypothetically. No light, no sound, just the crypt temple. But if you knew which turns to make from each statue, one could navigate deeper into the night church, just like Miss Bellafleur was taught the way to the dormitories by taking the statue related to Clan Toreador. So too could the prince reach the library. And so he began to walk. Left turn, forward, right turn, forward, left, forward, right, forward, forward, left, and then to a wall. He smiled. It was quite a lot to upkeep the ancient rituals that were put upon this place. But he had a large herd. He bites his thumb. The vitae wells up. He smears it on the wall. And with that, the ward is unlocked, and the door reveals itself. Almost like in a dream. It was always there, just hidden from sight. And he walks through. It's a small library, only a few rows of bookshelves. There are several shelves containing other strange objects, other strange ingredients. It has been quite some time since he was here. He looks around through the bookshelves of occult lore, searching. Where is it? He knows it's here. It has been such a long time. Ah, there it is. He grabs it. It is rather old, but what he needed wasn't here. He then turns to a large chest that is nestled in between two bookshelves. He opens it up, and the first item that catches his attention is a glowing sword that is placed within. The sword of Miss Kalliope Tavoularis. The blade blessed by the hunters, the one that slew the creature, or its mortal host, the one that tasted divine fire. Or so the story went. Who knew exactly what strange eldritch power coursed through the blade now, but the prince, well, his curiosity had gotten the better of him. Just like a child again, learning about something new for the first time. Oh, it filled him with such life. Holding the sword, now that feeling of righteous purpose, along with that curiosity, he was meant to find out what this sword truly was. It was no longer just a scholarly whim, it was a mission, a quest, a divine quest. And he would succeed. Taking the sword, he leaves, and as soon as he passes through the door with the book in hand, the ward recognizes him leaving. He doesn't have to turn around, but he knows the door is gone, and he traces his steps, and closes the entryway behind him. Before he leaves the church below, he heads to his study. There's two last things he must do. Gathering his pen and paper, he needs to write two notes. The first, to Miss Tavoularis. This one will be simple. It reads, "A true cleric will know to refuse the call to higher greatness in service to the greater good." With that, he will close it, stamp it, and he will be sure to hand it off to his ghoul to mail it in the morning, or deliver it depending on how much time was available. The other letter is going to be to his friend Gabriel. I apologize for not writing to you sooner, my friend. The events of the night have weighed heavily on my mind, and I believe we must talk. I am being pressured by our allies in the Balefire Coalition to deliver the materials that is Graves's research notes. I understand that Graves' disappearance may look unfavorably upon you, but we could not know that he would have ran before he had his moment to come before the court and be proclaimed victorious in his quest, and have the right to leave with dignity. But I do pray that he was able to find peace in greeting the sun in the desert. I will hope to meet you soon. I believe you will have a good place in mind. Sincerely, Ricardo Alvarez. Again, the envelope is sealed and stamped. The prince takes his leave of the night church. The ghoul will be waiting for him up the stairs with a very large pack, almost like a camping bag. Inside will be a rather powerful telescope, something that would be quite a lot of money for those in the field of astrology. The prince will take his other items, the book, the sword, and will place them in the bag. He will then hand the letters to his ghoul, and the ghoul will know what to do with them. The two then will return to the car and drive towards the outskirts of Reno, beyond the outskirts of Reno, into the desert, away from the polluted skies, to a place where one may gaze up and see the heavens in all of their splendor. A great quest has begun tonight. Whether or not the prince will be victorious, well, we'll have to find out later, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you for part 2.